like the video.
I don't even know what NBA fans want anymore. The Thunder don't jack up threes. They don't have a star that's always in the news. There's no drama surrounding the team. They're small market. They're not a super team. They didn't go out and try and buy a star to buy a championship ring. They're built from the ground up through drafts, good management, good trades, and good contracts. They're built on a good, strong defense, a unselfish superstar who had 10-plus assists in the last game of the year and is somehow also the scoring champ. It's insane. Their best player is a 6'6" guard who gets all of his buckets in the mid-range and knows how to draw a foul when needed. He's a great leader but doesn't have to punch his teammates in order to be one. And for some reason, people hate the Thunder.
They're just flawed.
But I don't. Even though I feel like I'm all alone today in celebrating this victory, because this is the team I've been rooting for the better part of a decade and a half, I still do feel like it's worth talking about why this team is such a deserving champion and why, I'm not going to lie, I feel like some of the hate is forced, but we're not going to spend too much time on it because at the end of the day, the right team won. And I'm so happy.
Derapy, Season 3 of Derapy.
First, I have to talk about the Indiana Pacers, who had an unbelievable postseason. They were doubted the entire time, similarly to the team that I was rooting for the entire year. But obviously it's different because the Oklahoma City Thunder weren't doubted until they got to the playoffs. Then it was, they're such a young team. They're so inexperienced. Oh my God, they got taken to a game 7. But the Pacers' path was actually crazy. They start out beating Giannis's team, and I know that nobody's going to mention this, but Dame going out probably counts for something, but that's besides the point. They handled the MVP handily, along with the Bucks. Then they beat the Cavs relatively handily, and again, I would like to mention that despite the Cavaliers having some injuries, I'm not going to allow that to be used as an excuse in the same way that I'm not going to say the Thunder only won the finals because Halliburton got hurt. These things simply happen. It's all a part of the game. It's an awful part of the game. But the Pacers had what was supposed to be a very tough series against Giannis and the Bucks, what was supposed to be an extremely tough series against the number one seeded Cavaliers. They beat both of them, then went into a Knicks series where they were once again underdogs and took care of them as well. And the Knicks were as healthy as you could imagine. And then getting all the way to the finals and facing the Thunder, who have been the best team in the league all year. And this isn't just coming from somebody that actually watches their games because I'm a big fan of them, but everybody knew one of the greatest defenses on paper in the modern NBA. If you asked any analyst, anybody that talks about basketball for a living, literally every single person that I could hear and find or read about was saying that the Thunder had it in the bag in 5 or 6. And honestly, I was one of those people too. So the fact that the Pacers got it to a game 7 had me shook as a Thunder fan. I'm sitting here like, I know that I'm supposed to be confident in this team. I've been seeing the point spread every single game, but the fact of the matter is in the past couple weeks, my team's won 3 games. The Pacers have beat us 3 times. The only thing that I had at this point was like, it's in Oklahoma. And when Tyrese Halliburton came out and hit like 3 threes in the first quarter, I'm not gonna lie, I was shivering me timbers a bit. I didn't assume that the Thunder were going to lose, but I had no reason to assume that we had it in the bag, and then the injury happened. And I'm not going to lie, even as somebody who was rocking a throwback Westbrook Thunder jersey while screaming at the television, I was hurt. I was devastated. I did not want to win this way. I didn't want there to be that doubt. I didn't want there to be that asterisk. But then I really sat with myself and thought about it, and after a couple minutes, I was like, you know, these things happen. And many people will say that they were robbed of what could have been a great experience, a game that everybody was looking forward to. Everybody loves a game 7. Haven't had one since 2016, which was a classic game. And many people feel like they were robbed of a classic game experience. But at the end of the day, the Thunder did what they had to do. They were clearly shook about the Halliburton injury, probably not nearly as much as the Pacers, but you could tell by the way that they played. With the Pacers going into halftime up, I was not having a great time at the time. But I have to keep it $190. Simultaneously, I was feeling 2 things when TJ McConnell started having a masterclass in the third quarter, TJ McConnell, it seemed like he was scoring almost every single point, and I thought to myself, this is insane. This would be the wildest way to lose, but then I thought again, and I was like, nobody else on the Indiana Pacers roster is getting into rhythm right now. He's obviously not going to carry them for the entire second half. Somebody else is going to have to do something, and by the time they are able to figure things out, it might be too late. They already have to shift their entire game plan because Halliburton comes out firing and looking good and healthy and like he's at 100%, and then they'd lose him, so they have to readjust. And they probably did not game plan to have TJ McConnell go off, so now they're constantly trying to readjust, and when he stops, who starts? And the answer was nobody. Now, the Thunder are not a perfect team. They're still young and they're still susceptible to being overwhelmed by the mental burden that is Game 7 of the NBA Finals. There was a point where they were up by 22 points in Game 7 of the Finals, and I was just starting to feel a little bit of celebration creep up in my stomach. I was like, oh man, we're getting close. And then before I knew it, the Pacers, that resilient team that they are, they never gave up and they never had the entire postseason. But eventually, that defense that we rely on, that defense that everybody in the NBA says is missing from so many other teams, the Thunder butter their bread with that, and they finally were able to shut down the other people that were trying to carry the load up the hill that TJ McConnell had gotten them halfway up. And at that point, it was just too late. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I completely understand why people are hating on him, but honestly, are you gonna tell me that it's rigged for this skinny dude from Canada? Sometimes the flopping does look absurd, but are we gonna sit here and pretend like anybody can stop him from getting this mid-range jumper off? He's just nice. The Thunder could have had a better postseason all around, but at the end of the day, they were always going to win because it feels like the NBA is becoming a war of attrition. It feels like everybody's getting injured on every team, no joke. And team like the Thunder, they are built for the long haul. Young guys, discipline, mature, play the game the right way. If you knew how I laughed when I saw people jumping to pick the Lakers to go to the finals after they got Luka, I'm sorry. Your second best player is 40 years old and your best player is kind of a cone on defense. I watched the games. Say what you want about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but many more players should aspire to be like him. Imagine being able to get 30 points every single game, but also be able to play incredible defense when you are trying to score on the Thunder. Who are you even trying to get the switch to? Everybody can move. The only real weak link, the person that can't really stay in front of some of the fastest players in the league is Isaiah Hartenstein, but he's still moving more than Jokic. And by the way, I know I'm all over the place, real season 3 vibes. I'm just yapping, but can we talk about the Thunder's path? I mean, they start out absolutely blasting the Grizzlies. There's not really much to talk about there, even though, for the record, Ja Morant did say that he had pretty much had him figured out. Psych! You got wiped off the planet, but that's besides the point. After a pretty quick series with the Grizzlies, the Thunder would go on to face the Nuggets, who have pretty much the player that everybody agrees is like one of the greatest offensive forces of all time, the best player in the NBA, Nikola Jokic. And even though it went to 7, the Thunder gave him absolute fits. I watched him have back-to-back games where he was struggling like I've never seen him struggle, and that's the Thunder. That's the defense. That's what wins championships. So they took them out in 7. And then they went up against the Timberwolves, who absolutely smoked the Lakers in the first round. But we're not going to get into that right now. And I just think that when you are faced with challenges like a young phenom like Ant and one of the greatest offensive forces we've seen in history like Jokic, and you handle your business, why wouldn't you be expected to make it to the mountaintop? Here is how I want to finish the show. I think it's really interesting the amount of backlash that the Thunder have gotten for simply winning basketball games. It didn't really hit me until it was happening to my team. And then it just occurred to me that unfortunately, this is just the nature of NBA discourse. This happens all the time. And my brother and I say this all the time. People forget. Heat and Nuggets, it's boring, no one cares. Raptors only won because KD got hurt. 2020 is a bubble ring, doesn't count. 17 and 18, KD was added to a 73-win team. Not fair, doesn't count. In 16, Draymond was suspended. That's the only reason the Cavs came back. In 12 and 13, Bron built his own super team. Not fair, big three Heatles. Last year, all the Celtics did was jack up threes. Everyone has asterisks.
I mean, this just happens all the time.
Maybe if the Pacers won this year because they're the underdog, maybe it would have been cool. But you know what's cooler? The best team winning. I'm sorry. What I do know is that I love where the league is. I love the fact that there are no dynasties, no super teams that have taken over the league, and everybody's just like, oh, I guess we just have to wait until they break up. I love two small market teams in the finals. I love defense and pace and freaks of nature like Chet Holmgren. I want a Spurs and Pistons finals next year. Why not? Get Wemby in there with Cade Cunningham, and everybody will talk about how boring it is, and I'll get to say, wow, really, really, anybody can get it. But what do you want? Maybe you want a 50-year-old LeBron James and a 40-year-old Steph Curry in there to go at it for their 10th finals or something? Do you want whoever ESPN is saying is the next Michael Jordan of the week? Do you think they should go to the finals? Do you think Jokic should go to the finals every year just because he's the best player? Me personally, I like change. I like competition, and I love when my team wins. I'll end with this. I had a tease of this in 2012 when the Thunder were playing the Heat, but now that I got the real thing, it's beautiful. I didn't know I could be so happy. Like, yesterday was really, really a emotionally intense day. I barely ever get anxious about anything, but I've never been on the verge of something so euphoric, but also potentially so devastating, and I had literally no control over it. But that's the beauty of sports, and I understand why everybody craves that in a way. They want their team to be in that situation. They want them to be in the last game of the year for a chance at glory. But that's why I love the league right now, because everybody has a chance to do that. And I understand the hate. Let it flow. If it wasn't your team, I get it. But all you can do is try and be better next year. It's truly up for grabs for anyone who wants it, especially with all these god-awful injuries. That's a whole other thing. But if you are willing to build a team with depth, defense, and desire that's well coached, young, and receptive to hard coaching, and is willing to play extremely hard, whether they're a role player like Alex Caruso or Cason Wallace, or they're the star of your team like J-Dub and Shea, anybody can do it.
Just be better.
That's all I have for you today. Love you. Mean it. Spread the bread. Go Thunder. Enjoy the outro. Bye.
Bernie in hell.
Yeah, my brain real, always records how my day feels. Surfing through the footage, only way that I can stay real. Paint wheel, every room wall, shade of gray teal. Trying to take back the joy that they steal. And now the watch that I got doesn't never seem to sync up with the clock. But I look at it too often anyway, and I should stop. The theory of relativity affects my life a lot. I never really thought about it till now. Right now I sit back silent, long in my lap. That's the reason why I'm smiling. On the attack, only way I was surviving. But all that is past, and that's the only real silver lining. My problem traits are the only things I wear upon my solemn face. I've been working real hard to change it, but it's all the race. Just to find out who can have the